Sourceful aims to democratize energy resources, allowing urban and suburban homeowners to contribute to a more sustainable energy system via DePin. Do you guys want to expand on that a bit and then give yourself or give the audience introductions?
Yeah, of course. So I can start where Morpheus started, just giving a short intro to who I am, and also we have Tobias, which is the lead developer on the team, with us here today. We're a team of 6 people. Actually Morpheus mentioned his age, so I'll do that as well. So I'm 43 years old, and we're a team from Sweden, so we're not that very far from where MonkeyDex is. We are essentially building a DePin. We've been doing this for 2 years, and I would say that our main goal is to create the largest community-powered virtual power plant. And essentially, when you look at Helium and what they are doing, we're essentially doing the same thing, but instead we are working with distributed energy resources. And that could be it could be solar, PV installations, it could be batteries, it could be wind. It could actually be anything that is producing power and is also controllable. So we have just started with the solar. That's essentially us. Yeah, do you want me to continue on, or do you want to, maybe Tobias, you say hello as well?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, my name is Tobias, and you can call me Hobbe also. I'm older than Fredrik, so yeah, I would not say lead developer, but maybe the one that has the most overview picture of our system.
So I guess I'll just jump right into that questions, because I'm actually I geek out on the energy sector stuff. My stepfather started a solar company when I was like 12, and then grew it and then sold it, and now he's, I guess, a freelance solar installer or consultant or whatever. We ended up actually crossing across the country running on vegetable oil when I was like 12, which is, I'm very, very into a lot of sort of the distributed energy sector. I think one of the first ICOs I bought in like 2017 was like shipping container solar powered coin mining, and I got rugged on that. But I'm curious, if your project were to succeed, how would it fundamentally change the energy sector?
I think that, the main point is what we're doing is that we, as I think every DePin essentially is doing, is that you have like some kind of traditional business. So it needs to work with fiat, and then you make it a DePin project, and then it works even better. That's essentially what we're doing. What we aim to change is that we will be able to connect more devices that aren't connected at the moment. We will do it in less, I would say. It will be more rewards to the end users. And we will be able to also build more products on top of the network that we're building. So just to say, there are numerous of traditional, we could call them Web 2 companies in this area. Also in Sweden and in the UK and in Europe and in the US, I'm sure of, that are connecting distributed energy resources, and then you are making a business out of controlling them, that you can turn them on, you can turn them off. We have companies working with HVACs and et cetera, et cetera. So what we are trying to do is, as I said before, what Helium is doing. There has always been a need for mobile and IoT networks, but well, who's going to install the very small devices in each and every home? How are you going to make this very cheap and very affordable? And how are you actually going to put the rewards directly in the hands of the members, the end users? So that's what we're solving. So I wouldn't say that, there is already a business out of this, but there is no one that at the moment has solved the problem of connecting small-scale solar. That's why we start at small-scale solar. There aren't that much money in it, but with the DePin approach, yeah, it makes sense. So
when you say small-scale solar, are you talking like residential?
Residential, yes.
Residential,
and obviously,
cool.
If it works for residential, it will work for even bigger solar farms.
Right.
But those are already most likely connected. They are most likely already maybe run by an energy grid or like a larger provider. They're already in like part of that system. So what we see is that there is, I mean, if we look at Europe and we look at Sweden, I mean, we are north of Europe, north part of Europe, we don't have that much sun. It's much better in different in southern areas. But look in Germany, there are over 1 million individual like residential solar installations that are not connected. I mean, if we just look at the sheer number of installations. And the problem here is that each and every inverter, because that's the hardware part that is like, well, taking the DC power from the roof and making that into AC. Yeah, some of them like maybe were bought 5-10 years ago. They might not even have a Wi-Fi connection. They are just running. So obviously you can connect them. And I would say most of these, I would say newer, they are connected. So, I mean, you have a Wi-Fi connection in most modern inverter systems. But then there's the problem of, you're connected to your Solar Edge or Huawei or your SunGrow or GrowWatt. You have it in your app, but that data is not shared with the energy grid that would actually be really interested in this data. And you're not able to control. So, I mean, just being able to actually maybe put a little bit control part on that, that's where the money is. So that's what we're trying to solve. And
So is the thinking behind this sort of taking the sort of a helium hotspot approach and having a little thing that you plug into your power meter, and then like the way I sort of conceptualize it without knowing anything about you guys is like, if I had solar on my house, would I just plug this thing into this little like hotspot, for lack of a better term, into my power meter, and then maybe sell my excess energy to the grid? And then is that how that would work?
Yeah, it can actually work in different ways depending on which area you are in the world. So selling excess power, you're already doing that in, I would say, in most parts of the world. So we're not starting there. We will be able to handle that as well. But in the very beginning, yes, you buy a gateway. And by the way, we are already distributing gateways. So in the beginning, we're early and all. These are 3D printed. Hobby, you have one there. It's essentially a Raspberry Pi with a crypto chip. We are following the route of Helium Foundation. So we're in very close contact with the Helium Foundations, with Joey and Abe and the company. So they have been in the discussions when we have developed this gateway. And we are also doing a dual mining approach. So at the moment, you're actually able to dual mine with the original, I would say, one of the first Helium hotspots. So our software can run side by side with the Helium software, and that works at the moment. So
that's fantastic.
And I mean, we're actually aiming to like try to align as much as possible. We love what Helium is doing. I mean, it's a great inspiration for us. A lot of our tokenomics is, I would say, copied more or less straight off Helium because we love what they are doing and we try to copy that as much as possible. But with the idea of how can we incentivize people to install more renewable power? That's like maybe the core idea of this project. And if I just add to the gateway part, we are also now actually going to look into cloud. A lot of the inverters have already a cloud API. So in some of the inverter models, we might actually be able to skip the I would say the gateway, but for obviously less rewards because you will get less quality of the data. But
Right. So is your sort of design methodology here, like, are you thinking about how you can piggyback off of the existing Helium hotspots and see, like, because they obviously have great distribution already. I think they recently like surpassed T-Mobile in coverage or something ridiculous. So is this like something that you would buy in addition to that, or is it just going to run natively on the hotspot?
It will run natively as it is now on the ROC version 2 hotspot. You are able to run our software side by side natively. So that already works. It's already we are in discussions with the ROC Wireless also, so they will be able to distribute a dual mining hotspot that can do both Helium and Sourceful. But eventually, I mean, it's just software running on the device. So we will be able to accommodate this on many different types of hardware. You're able to run our software on, I would say, any computer, more or less.
Cool.
What like the main part now is that we do want people, and we do want the device to have a crypto chip. So that's as part of the DePin idea. I mean, we need to sign the data as close as possible to the source. So
yeah, no pun intended, or maybe pun intended. Let's see. So would you say that the purpose of the token in the context of this project is sort of the rewards mechanism for setting up the network? Are you able to, what is the purpose of the token overall? Is it interact with, I don't know, your energy needs? Are you aiming to supplant like someone's energy bill? What does that look like?
Yeah, the source token is a utility token. And by the way, the token already exists, but it's not tradable. So that's like, if you're going to ask that later, why we're part of this project, the LFG Launchpad, it's pretty obvious when we go to that question. But anyhow, the token will serve as, I would say, the main thing with the token in the early beginning is that we're going to give proof of source, and that is rewards more or less for building the network. We need as many sites and devices connected as possible. As time goes, those will diminish, not diminish completely, but they will get less. And then we will put more in the pot of energy services. So, and energy services could be lots of things. What we are starting with is proof of control. So what I talked about earlier is that there is a $1 billion market, and I'm just talking about ancillary services, the demand and response market, keeping the frequency stable in the grid. That's a $1 billion market, and it's rising exponentially because the more renewable power we get, the higher we get the demand for this kind of services, the more control we need. So that's the part we're starting with, proof of control. But to extend on this, it's actually not set. We do have in the roadmap, like peer-to-peer energy trading. It will absolutely be possible. So our platform, that's possible. I mean, we're using Solana, so well, the fees are pretty low, and we're able to also do things in a quick amount of time in terms of latency. So that is totally possible. It's in the roadmap. So, but
Sweet.
Yeah, if talking about tokenomics, we could all know helium. If we're going to make the analogy with helium, is that what we call proof of source is proof of coverage. If it's not perfect analogy, but like you get rewards, because you have your gateway. And then we do the same thing. You get rewards just because you have connected your inverter or so. And then we have another pot, which helium has, like, okay, you get rewards if people are actually sending data through your hotspot. And that will be what we call proof of coverage. But yeah, that's just the start. We'll build on top of this. It will be more things in the future.
Okay, just for the audience, are you more closely aligned with their HNT token or their mobile token?
That's actually a good question, because we have chosen not to have these data credits pegged to the US dollar. That's a decision. We thought about, maybe we should have an energy credits which is pegged to the US dollar or euro or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of energy market, it doesn't make sense. And that's the thing. It doesn't make sense to peg anything, because you have so much volatility in the energy market. The prices of ancillary service could be super high and could be super low, and summertime, wintertime, and also different markets. So I would say that the source token is as the helium token, but just don't think about data credits. We will utilize the source token as the utility token for all the services. And we like to keep it simple. So that's also a choice. We don't want to complicate things. We have one token, and that will be the utility token. We do utilize the burn and mint equilibrium. So whatever services that are bought from the system, like ancillary services, like the $1 billion market I talked about, these will actually be money that is put into the market, and we do burn source tokens. So there will be a deflationary mechanism in the system, just like helium.
Awesome. I think there's a really interesting thesis around Bitcoin essentially being in a way, tokenized energy because
Yeah.
of its proof of work consensus mechanism. What do you think of that statement, and maybe how does Sourceful improve upon it, or differentiate itself, or operate differently than that?
Yeah, essentially, I mean, doing the analogy with Bitcoin might actually not be, it might not be that easy because we're doing different things. I mean, Bitcoin is Bitcoin, and we are trying to solve a real world problem by using a token, essentially. So I would be a little bit like, yeah, we are working with energy, but I would say Bitcoin is probably more linked to like energy usage, as that is what is required for the hashing power. We are working with energy, but more of like using a token for being able to utilize this in a system in an effective way, if you understand what I mean. So I would be a little bit cautious about doing too much analogy with Bitcoin. But if someone, Hobbe, if you want to sort of dive deeper into this, I'm happy to.
Yeah, I think the mining thing is a little bit of a word that is a little bit misused. We are not really mining anything based on energy. We are rewarding you for sharing your data and sharing your ability to control your consumption or production of energy.
And obviously it will be, I mean, the proof of source will be linked to the amount of renewable energy you produce. So there is a direct correlation between the power you actually do have put in the system, which is the energy system. Because the bigger you are, the more you're also able to control. You could see this as, okay, I have a really large antenna for my helium gateway or helium hotspot. Yeah, you will be able to provide more coverage with that antenna if you're going to make some kind of analogy with helium. And I'm just bringing up helium because I believe that most people in here know about helium. So I'm sort of leveraging on them.
I'm curious, do you have any sort of interest overlap with the carbon credit system or any other green systems?
I would say that, I mean, the carbon credit system, we do have an interest overlap. I would say that we would probably want to align with that kind of system or these other projects in the future. At the moment, if you're going to get, I would say, verified carbon credits, and if you're going to make these energy certificates, as, I mean, in the UK, and a green kilowatt hour, if you can prove that it is green, they pay about 10 pence for that in the UK. And if someone in the chat lives in the UK, you can probably write a number which is like more spot on what I just said. But anyhow, there is large amount of money in that. But there might be legal regulatory restrictions in each and every country that requires you to have maybe a mid-certified energy meter in some country of a different brand, different model. It might be required that is it installed by an electrician, etc., etc. So we will be able to accommodate these things, but these will also need to be aligned with different markets, different regions in the world. So the proof of source is what we give to like connect your device, and then we'll be able to build on top of this. So obviously, yes, carbon credits will definitely be one thing that is on the roadmap, but not from day one.
Sweet. So could you break sort of the roadmap down as I see it right now? Like, I'll just give you a rough example and you can tell me where I'm wrong or whatever, into 3 steps. So like one is like bringing these sort of offline residential solar things online or onto the grid. And then 2 maybe is like the peer-to-peer energy market. And then is 3 decentralizing the power grid. Is that sort of you can totally change all that, but
yeah, I mean, actually, I mean, in one way that might be far stretched idea. I mean, the power grid is in some countries owned by the state. In some countries, it's owned by a company that has a monopoly in some certain areas. And we're talking about the power lines and such. So, but essentially what we are doing is that from day one, we are sort of decentralizing I would say, the power production, because that's essentially what we're doing. I mean, if you could actually do it like this, you could sell 1,000 power plugs, just like an adapter you put into your wall socket. As long as you're able to control them and people are using them, you have a virtual power plant. And these kind of ideas, these kind of systems already exist. So yeah, we are decentralizing this. And I mean, the innovation here is that we're bringing this, say, traditional idea. I mean, there are markets for this, there are companies working with this, but we are doing it the Web3 approach. And we think that makes total sense. I mean, it's almost like, why have no one done it before? There are, as far as we know, there are two others that are placed in this area. There's ArcGreen, which is on the Peak network, and then we have Rowan Energy, which is, I think, a very like more of a solar installing company, but they are running some kind of Ethereum compliant chain, which they are running on their own. We are, I would say, we are almost Solana Maxis, and we do believe that is the ecosystem for these kind of services. So I would say it's actually quite strange that no one has tapped into this market with this kind of project before, because the potential is huge in terms of market cap. The energy market is absolutely enormous in terms of market cap, and it's something that we all people need. Actually, I would actually say that, I mean, we all need internet, we all need mobile, but we do need electricity even more. There is actually one of the cornerstones in society. So just bringing this into the Web3 world would be a massive impact. I'm totally sure of it. So I'm super bullish on this idea. And
yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's interesting, like all these sort of the archaic systems. I'm in the US, our power grid's terrible, but it seems like the internet sort of revolutionized a huge portion of, you know, everyday life, but it seems to have not touched things like government or finance or energy systems, or, you know, the just the most important things in the world.
Yeah.
Do you see this sort of, I guess, blockchain technology as the answer to that, and should it have existed when the internet occurred?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that things are always evolving. I mean, like we would probably not have blockchain technology if there weren't for internet. But well, we could argue about that, but that's my belief anyhow. But anyhow, what I do see is that I mean, the world in many ways is super traditional, and we try to solve problems in the traditional way, and that traditional way now is Web 2. And one of the, I would say, probably one of the most traditional, I would, sectors is, yeah, most likely like the energy and energy companies. They are very traditional. So we're trying to break things. And I think also in terms of, and we do have contacts with a lot of energy companies, just to say. So we're doing, I mean, I think Morpheus has previously told us, like, they are all degens. We are not all degens. I'm probably not a degen in that same kind of term, but we have degens in the team as well, so don't worry. But anyhow, we are actually in discussions with, I would say, a handful of energy companies in Sweden at the moment. As soon as we have enough sites, we'll be able to sell this, and we are able to put in real fiat money, which will actually put a value to the token in directly into the market. The only thing that is a little bit surprising is that we started in Sweden, but I mean, all the gateways that we have sold so far is not in Sweden, so they will probably end up in different marketplaces. But yeah, we aim global from day one, obviously. So, and
yeah, that's cool.
Just because of customs, we haven't actually shipped anything to the US and to Australia, but that's going to be solved very, very soon.
Yeah. Do you see any, with these energy companies, do you see any obstacles for Sourceful? So just for like a little context, like there's a huge amount of energy monopolies in the United States. My stepfather, you know, he testified against the one over in Maine and all sorts of other things like that during his job, because of the, you know, just the issues he had with simply people selling their power back to the grid. Like the energy company, the main energy company that served the state that he lived in, wasn't accepting those credits at all. Do you see sort of an issue with these entrenched powers? Do you feel like they're going to be something to contend with in the future?
Absolutely. I think there will be a lot of challenges that we don't even know about yet, and I think they will be totally different in different areas of the world. But I can speak about our home market, like the Nordic countries, where we do have these kind of discussions. I would say also Germany, because we have been talking with people there. there will not be anything that is, I would say, stopping us from going directly into the proof of control, like the control part. Because as long as you can aggregate resources and control them, and actually that's what you're doing, you can make a deal with more or less any so-called aggregator that is aggregating controllable energy. And that will be a normal invoice via whatever, euro or Swedish crowns or Norwegian or Danish or US dollar, but that will be a normal invoice. And actually, that's exactly the same thing that Helium is doing with the traditional telcos, because they are not buying HNT. They want to do it traditional. So Sourceful in the Swedish jurisdiction, yeah, we will be the entity that is like actually bridging the Web3 world to, I would say, an invoice. In other countries, yeah, there will be any other company that is doing that, likely not us. And that's also the power of Web3, that we'll be able to actually bring in a lot of more entrepreneurs and people into the system. And also what we saw with Helium is that,
Wait,
yes.
I think I'll toss it to the Slug. Do you have any questions, Slug?
Yeah, I kind of just want to break this concept down to like the most layman level possible.
Yeah.
So I'll start with a couple questions just to go back and forth. So is the initial vision of the token to prove that you installed the software to measure your energy generation, or does it also reward people based on how much they generate?
Both. So we have a threshold. So you get 40% of the proof of source. So let's actually, I would actually be a little bit careful to dive. We are in a beta phase now. So we have a tokenomics, which isn't like 100% set. But I would say the idea is that we have a general distribution. 36% of all the distribution will be proof of source. We have energy services, which will be 36% as well. But let's just start with proof of source. You just connect your inverter, you have solar on the roof or so. Then you get 40% of like, I would say, what is of the proof of source pot just by being up in the network. And then 60% is calculated as, I would say, a linear function of from 0 kilowatt hours per day of generated renewable power up to a threshold, which we think will be about 400 kilowatt hours per day, because we don't want people to have like a big solar farm and then just one gateway. We maybe want redundancy and split that up into smaller parts. So, but yes, there will be a baseline. So you will get rewards just by connecting your device. And then obviously you will get more up to a certain threshold, depending on the amount of renewable power you produce. So if that is a clear answer.
Gotcha. So you connect this inverter device if you have solar panels, and off the bat, you get a big chunk of the tokens just for doing that, aka what you're calling proof of source. Then based on how much energy you're actively generating, you can get more tokens over time.
That is correct.
Okay. So how does this work exactly in the country where you're from? Because in the US, it's my understanding that the number one way you get solar panels is you get the energy company to install them, and then they're kind of entitled to the fruits of that energy generation. Is it different in Sweden?
It's different in Sweden. I mean, obviously you need to sell the power somewhere. So, and obviously, yeah, you're connected to a grid. So, but you can choose whatever provider in Sweden, and I would say in many European countries as well. So I can actually choose. So even though I have my energy provider, I can choose another energy provider. Well, still. So, but the thing here is that it will work regardless. For the proof of source is us actually just giving rewards for you connecting your inverter. You will be able to do that as long as you are able to sort of communicate with the inverter over Modbus TCP. That is like the general way, or whatever way we will find in the future. But yeah, essentially, yes. So you can still sell your excess energy to the energy company. You can still get whatever rewards in like payment in. You can still do that. And you can still get rewards from Sourceful just by having your device connected. The point here is that, and if you see this from the big picture, is that, yeah, are we actually rewarding people for not selling their energy to us. No, we're not an energy company, not yet. Maybe never. But the thing here is that, yeah, we are essentially doing what helium is doing. I mean, before helium had any devices in the world that were using helium, they had a lot of gateways. It's the hen and egg problem. So someone needs to build a network before it's worth anything. And you can do this in two ways. Either you can go to a VC and have a really good case, and then you say that I need $100 million and I'm going to build the large IoT network in the world, or the largest virtual community-powered power plant. Or you could reward people with tokens and then build a network, reward people with tokens. If people believe in the project, yeah, the token will definitely get the value, as in helium. And then you have sort of bootstrapped the process of a VC funding, which is also, I think, one of the really, really cool things and the strengths of doing this in a web-free way. And that's what we strongly believe in. I mean, it would be a dream for us if we could actually bootstrap the VC process by going into the Jupiter Launchpad. That would be so cool. It would actually be, I would say, a way to show that you are able to do things like 100% by the belief of the community. I mean, how cool wouldn't that be?
Gotcha. So just to interject briefly, so this phase one is about getting people to install these inverters and data collection, and then you have this massive network of individuals which has a lot of leverage in a very meaningful way for whatever you want to do with it, whether it's regarding regulations or this and that. What's phase two? After you do this, say you get 1 million people to do this, what's the phase two? Is this tied to people selling their energy in any way? Are you guys becoming an energy company? How's the token tie-in? What's the next phase after you get that network?
I would say the next phase, depending on which market, let's say in Sweden, because I think it needs to be very much market-based, because energy grids are per default something that is like very different in different parts of the world, as we talked about. I mean, in the US, you have different states and different jurisdictions for that. So let's say that you have an energy company. You might already be a traditional energy company, and you want to increase the number of renewable energy that you are actually selling to your customers. So you might want to greenify your mix of renewable energy. Yeah, you could buy that energy from Sourceful, and the entity in the US might not be Sourceful. It might be another company that is handling like the invoice, web-free approach, and bridging that. That could be, I would say, any entity, the power of the blockchain in this case. But yeah, in the long run, essentially what we're doing is that we're bridging the energy market to the web-free space. And then obviously we do one thing at the moment. We are connecting small-scale PV. That's where we start, because no one else is doing this. I would not totally true, but I would say in Sweden and Europe, no one else is doing this. And I mean, from there, limitless opportunities. Helium started with IoT. They now run, as you said, mobile, and they are even competing with the big telcos. And they sell a $5 monthly plan with limitless data. Just think about the future for the energy sector if we try to link and do the same incentives in this way. So
in the current Web 2 model, I assume there's no one collecting all the data, maybe like a subset of it for certain panels or certain companies, but no one's collecting all of it. Is that sort of like the underlying?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
And we might not be able to collect all of it. I mean, we could probably, obviously we do want, if we are able to do it, it would be absolutely wonderful. But just to mention another project, because I'm a strong believer that DePin projects are like the next big narrative in crypto. That's obviously, I need to believe that. But anyhow, if you look at Demo, and you might have already heard about Demo, which is connecting cars. They are also rewarding people for driving their car, just because of collecting data from lots of different manufacturers. they can reward them and they can make a business on the data, which is insurance companies and such. And we will be able to do that as well. And a funny thing is actually, I don't think many people realize that, but if you do have solar on your roof, you have your utility meter. That is the metering point where your energy company actually, I would say, knows how much you're consuming or producing. But if the sun is shining, you might be cooking food in the oven and maybe charging your car at the same time. The utility meter is perhaps on net zero. You might be using the exact amount of power that you're producing on your roof that you're using. That itself is a black hole for the energy companies and the government or whatever entity that is interested, because no one actually knows how much you are producing at that moment. You can make an educated guess, absolutely, because you might have reported that you have solar, etc. But no one has the data. So just by bridging this into, I would say, making this an open data set, that's also worth enormously, I would say, in the big picture of the energy systems. So.
Okay, I think I understand. Yeah. So I just want to summarize everything we just went through, because I think it was very enlightening. But so the idea is to incentivize people to install this inverter device, to collect data and reward them based on energy generation. Then over time, after you guys form a substantial network, this creates an abundance of leverage with a significant amount of data that isn't really obtainable other ways currently, which opens up a lot of possibilities, whether it's working with current companies, whether it's Sourceful forming its own energy company, whether it's Sourceful providing services, and it enables people to take more control over and be incentivized for their energy generation. Would you say everything I just said is kind of on?
It's you have listened very carefully, so yes, that's perfect.
Thank you. But yeah, that's all the questions I had for now, Kemo, in case you had anything else.
No, I think you guys did a pretty excellent job. I'm excited. I geek out over this stuff. So
yeah. And I can actually, cool. Just a fun fact is that we are, I think, might be one of the only, or I'm not sure, but we are funded. Like, we are bootstrapping, yes, but we do have some initial government funding from the Swedish Energy Agency, which is cool. Really cool, because we are a Web3 crypto-first project, and they thought the idea was actually worth spending some money on. We're not talking about big money, but like 50K euro. Right. So it's at least something. So we're government approved.
Yeah. You got the government stamp of approval. Yeah. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, I don't know. This is the kind of stuff that I'm in crypto for in the first place. Like Helium, back in 2017, I bought all the ICOs that were related to the energy sector and decentralizing the internet and all that stuff, and got rugged, and now finally actually occurring on Solana because of all the DePin stuff. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm excited about all of this quite a bit. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add to that before we jump over to Uprock?
I'm not sure. I mean, you didn't push too hard on the tokenomics part, which we're a little bit grateful for, because I mean we do have that in the documentation, so you get a general overview of the tokenomics. But I would say that we are like 99% done, and also part of the LFG Launchpad. I would say the same thing as Morpheus said before, is that we don't have a clear idea on like the exact numbers of everything, right. But we are thinking about airdrops. We do want to reward the community if we're part of the Jupiter Launchpad. So obviously that is part of the plan, to do some kind of airdrops. And we do also have an idea that we are working on quite extensively now for making people being able to jump onto this project without actually having solar on the roof. So we do have a launch date on the 7th of May, which is it will be something else.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think Slorg and I's approach isn't too. We're neither of us are tokenomics geniuses. We are just better at sort of talking to people and asking teams and interviewing teams and getting to understand sort of the motivations behind that. So if we were to push really hard on the tokenomics, we'd be pushing from a place of ignorance anyway. So not all that much worth our time. The only time we really do that is if there's some glaring, a lot of community questions around something.
And I mean, And the main takeaway for all DePin projects, I'm not going to talk any longer but the main takeaway for all DePin projects, I would say, is that you're bringing in new people that haven't perhaps never installed a Solana wallet before. You're bringing them into this space.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that I think just think about it. This is exactly what we need if we want the community to grow even further. If we want new money into the system, and if we want new people that are installing Solana wallets, new people that are building and getting interested. So that's, I think, the power of DePin.
Yeah, and I also think that DePin projects from a tokenomics perspective looks very much different from your traditional whatever. Like I think the common thread through a lot of tokens that don't have any real world ties, i.e. Solana and Ethereum do, but the approach to like deflation in these things as well, like inflation is an incentive mechanism more than anything. And I'm not speaking to your tokenomics, but Helium's, for example, like it's a great mechanism for onboarding and increasing economic activity. So yeah, sweet.
I guess I do have a final question. So what is your plan to sort of propagate this into the public awareness? Because just glancing at your Twitter account, and Twitter's not everything, of course, but it's about 400 followers, so it's modest following. But what's your sort of strategy to get this into people's awareness, would you say?
I mean, one way is obviously work with the community that we're part of now, but we won't reach that far. So the project, the strategy now is to talk with, for instance, solar installers. We have a one-pager that is supposed to sort of onboard people that, okay, you have solar on your roof. Do you want to get rewards for that, even more than you're getting now? So we are in discussions with local solar installers and national level solar installers. We are also talking with, as I said, energy companies. We have E.ON, Vattenfall, and such in Sweden. And the discussions are going like pilot case. Are we able to make some kind of pilot case? Because it's in their incentive, regardless of blockchain, regardless of Web3, if someone can actually get them data, like from the consumers that are producing power, they are interested. So if we're able to sort of bring that for them, it will be very cheap or even for free, because we might be able to fund this in a different way than like a VC. That's what I'm saying. So, but we need to make it sellable. The general person that owns PV and lives in I would say a residential area might not be a DGen. So we need to onboard these people in some way, and that's a challenge.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Going through the energy companies, the people already using these things. So I think we'll you guys hang tight. We'll get back to you during the second and third part of the AMA.